Welcome to the Hey Brother podcast. One of the biggest impetus for this podcast, one of the reasons we started this podcast was because I really enjoy having conversations with my biological brother, Mitch. And that's where this kind of thought experiment started, was like, I wonder what doing a podcast with my brother would look like. And it evolved into this format that's actually pretty unique to the podcast space, where I don't think many people are doing it. Really, I don't see it at all, where I interview somebody long form for maybe like an hour. Then my brother and I, Mitch, come in and discuss it. And we do that because we just want to invite you into our discussion. We have grown up together since, we're about a year and a half apart. Not even that, but we pretty much grown up through life together, through all the childhood sibling fights and rivalries to living in the same city with each other. And we just really enjoy each other's company and having conversation, and we want to invite guys into that. And so, we do this a little differently by looking back at the interview that just happened and bring you guys into our first thoughts on that. And then also open up to you to bring your thoughts into this experience. This whole idea of creating this podcast is to start creating and fostering good online brotherhood. So hope you guys enjoy our thoughts, this first session of first thoughts of the Hey Brother podcast, and enjoy. In today's world, Catholic men face countless challenges on the road to holiness. Addiction, anger, self-doubt, relationship struggles, and so much more. These battles can leave us stuck in mediocrity. But the truth is, we're made for more. The world needs good men. Welcome to the Hey Brother podcast, where we dive into these real struggles and share from our own experience as brothers and husbands and fathers. Together, we'll explore how to overcome life's challenges and become the men God created us to be. So grab a seat, brother, and remember, you're not alone. All right, we are live.
Oh,
so
heck yeah.
Tell me about the Christmas finascal a little bit.
Oh, preparing for Christmas?
Yeah.
We haven't been this scheduled out for Christmas before.
Okay.
And it's like mostly good things, but a little stressful on the planning. But
yeah, schedule out meaning like you're.
Oh man, we got stuff on the 25th, the 26th, the 28th, the 31st.
Woof.
We already did stuff last weekend on the 14th. We have a wedding this weekend. That's the kicker. Now,
A wedding. Okay.
Yeah, a wedding in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So that is definitely what is throwing the wrench in everything.
Yeah.
Because like it's a good thing, but like literally tomorrow we're going to stay with my in-laws.
Okay.
And then driving to Indianapolis.
Nice.
Coming back on Sunday.
Are the kids coming with you, or are you just you?
No, they're staying
Okay.
at the in-laws.
Yeah.
But then we're coming back Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, I work, and Wednesday's Christmas Day, which we'll be back at hometown for.
Okay.
So I'm also going to work the first part of Christmas Eve. So,
Whoop whoop.
yeah, it's exciting. That's why when you tried to schedule something with us.
To get this recorded?
No, not this.
Just to hang out?
Yeah, the hangout thing. And yeah. I'm just like, no. It was just funny because, like, what I told you, it was like maybe Tuesday. And then, like, 5 hours later, I'm like, no, that's like, I'm like, Tuesday's literally the only day that could work. And I'm like, Tuesday's not going to work either.
It's all booked up.
Yeah. And, like, part of that is, like, scheduling in break times. Because, like,
yeah,
like I said, we could have done stuff on, like, the 26th or the 27th or the 29th or the 30th or something. But it's just like, you know what? I also want to just, like, be at home with the kids.
With your family, yeah, during Christmas. It's,
yeah.
Yeah, to actually have some sort of break while you're on Christmas break / like celebrating the Christmas season.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, it's all fun things, and I think more than ever this year, like preparing for it and scheduling things out is like I think we'll be more prepared to have an even more enjoyable time.
Yeah.
To celebrate well.
Yeah.
But
nice. Yeah. 'Tis the season. It's
yeah.
it is busy. Yeah.
But even Christmas shopping, I finally understand why like the stereotype of where the women do all the shopping and because of the dad, like it's not like it was the first time I ever realized it's not because dads like don't want to or won't, and maybe that is the case for some people, but
yeah, sure.
but for me it was just like Brooke's been thinking about this for for weeks now, and I'm like, Christmas is in 5 days or something, I don't know. And I haven't really given much thought about anything, so
yeah, she's like on top of it. That's like one of the nice things. Yeah,
and she's just looking for things for like our kids or something, and then she's like, hey, your godchildren might like this, and we're like, cool, send it.
I don't know about you, but like for Renee and I, like there's like gift giving is probably like the bottom love language. And so
me it's pretty low, but Brooke is pretty high, which is been difficult for me.
Yeah. And both like giving and receiving, or like is it
I think so. Definitely she likes to give gifts, but also receive. Yeah. But I think I've given her a good gift, like maybe twice.
Yeah.
But
finding the good gift. Well, let's jump into today's topic. Today we're talking about a conversation. We're breaking down a conversation that I just had with Bobby not too long ago, and he came on to the Hey Brother podcast, and this is the first of this sort where we're actually like responding to an interview that I did with somebody. The first interview that we did was looking at the Catholic gentleman, and that was fun. Just like looking at what they proposed to be the number one thing of fatherhood. This is different because I was like actually in the interview, and it's like now I'm responding to like what was going on. But most of it, like you guys can check it out. Like most of it was Bobby talking, and sharing his testimony, which both me and you were somewhat familiar with. But what were your initial kind of thoughts on it?
I just was first thinking that like it was so cool. It's so cool to be on the end of like a podcast interview. You know what I mean? Like I know you and Bobby already, and I don't. So like I listened to the podcast like how I would not listen to any other podcast, but like being one step closer to all the action was cool. And I've known Bobby probably not even a year yet, honestly.
Okay.
But I was helping him move a couple weeks ago for a few days there. And one thing that just stands out to me about Bobby in general is like I always like he's cut from a different cloth, right?
Yeah.
and I'm thinking about him like that cloth is humility. Like he's like the most humble guy I have ever met. Like like seriously, like he doesn't give off any like selfish vibes to me. Like he's always thinking of other people.
Right.
And his talents are like very, very like deep seated.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just like watching, like helping him move. He does like all this, like he's built so much furniture and stuff.
Yeah. That's like a secret talent that he has. Like
right.
Woodworking. yeah.
And it's like really high quality stuff and like and impressive. And I don't know everything. Even when we were playing darts the other day, like. Like he's super smart and super talented guy.
Yeah, he's that humility's attractive too, right? Like he's like gentle, soft spoken, and he's capable a lot.
Yeah, right.
And he's a good man. Yeah, I think it's like one of the things that people first see about Bobby is like his intentionality and like humility. Like it's and like I loved where. I mean, it comes across in the whole testimony, like him sharing about his life, right? Like he was in a dark place after searching for some time. And so like just to come in and like share that on the podcast, like that alone is like humility and like vulnerability. But that's what you notice about, at least the first time I've encountered him, is like just he's a very intentional dude, right? Like all of a sudden you become the focus in the conversation, right?
And that's like maybe what I mean about the humility too, is that like whenever you're like telling him something or just talking about it, he's always just like impressed. Like he's never, even though he probably knows more about something than you're talking about.
Sure.
I don't know. That's the vibes I'm getting. I don't know if he knows more or not, but like I'm like he's like kind of hidden in that kind of knowledge and stuff. But
Yeah.
anyhow, he one thing I really appreciate about his story is like the completeness of what he talked about. You know, you kind of hear these stories of like people turning to the Lord, and like prison or whatnot, and like that's the end of the story,
right?
Where it's just like these guys came in and now I'm living a life for Jesus,
right?
But like the way that he talked about, like the way that the interview went on, it was just like no, like it wasn't just like that. You know, he kind of fell back into the world, and even when he entered, like when he like started having a relationship with the Lord again, he was still doing the photography, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
the risque photography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but then after that, he got like, you know, you talked about him getting into married life and into fatherhood and whatnot, and it's just like he didn't have a conversion moment, and I think even foreshadowing you and Father Ambrose's conversation a little bit.
Sure.
They talk about like it was those two interviews like kind of had the same message to me.
Yeah.
That it's giving your life, every aspect of your life to
yeah, not just this one moment,
right,
but like this continued like yeah, okay, what's next? What's the Lord calling me to next? Which to me like can feel daunting at times, right? Like
yeah, for sure.
It's like how do we keep that continued growth? It's really easy to look at, you know, if it's just this one thing I have to do, then we're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, they both like, yeah, Bobby in particular, like just a witness to what does that look like, continuing to be open, like, and I thought it was interesting, like in his story where he had that initial conversion. And I feel like that happens with a lot of people I talk to, where there's that initial conversion, myself included, where
Yeah,
I come to know the Lord, and then all too quickly, like I go back to the worldly things.
exactly.
And like it's like a daily occurrence too, right? Like it's like I could be convicted at one point of like, oh yeah, like I need to do better as a man, and then like the next thing you know, like spending too much time on YouTube, right?
No, exactly. And no, and really, I listened to that about 3 days ago,
Okay.
and Bobby's Bobby's interview. I've been thinking about that like a bunch because of that, and it's just like I don't know. Before that time, it was really eye opening for me because before that time, it never clicked to me that like what giving every part of your life really meant. I think Bobby explained that very, very well. I thought I had written a quote down from there, but I didn't. But just the idea that like the Lord wants every part of your thoughts and your how you spend your time and invited in everything. And like I've heard that before, right? Everyone, you know, that's
Sure.
not that, but Bobby, the way he
embodies it, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and then it's very nice. He's a very encouraging dude to like life to look at.
yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, he's got this subtleness to like how like almost like the simplicity. Like there's a subtle like simplicity to looking at like, well, I guess it's not even that subtle. Like, it's his whole mission with "You are loved," right? The gospel message in a simple way. You are loved, and if you can like simplify anything in life, it makes it a lot easier to live out. And it's like, yeah, like, what do you mean? Like, of course I'm going to give my life to the Lord. That's the kind of approach that takes, and it's something we can grow in. And I think it's like, how can we grow in that simple approach of like just like looking at things? I think for myself, it's like easy to kind of start to like, what are all the barriers to giving myself, like, that means I have to stop watching so much YouTube. That means I have to start waking up more like on time. Like, I have to start eating better. I have to start like, the list starts going really. Are you
talking about you or me right now?
Well, that's one of the things about being brothers. We share many virtues and vices.
Yeah, for sure.
In the room to grow. So it's like, it's when we start to like have our minds race on like all the things. That's when it becomes daunting.
Yeah, right. And that's even an interesting thing that you bring up too, because like this is a way the Lord's been speaking to me a lot lately too. Is like, it's very interesting in this light, because I have, give up YouTube, start eating well, doing all the little things, waking up early, all that kind of stuff. But then I think there's a key part of that you're missing in like that, like creating that list of things you want to do. And what that is that like what Bobby's teaching me through that is that it's not what you do, it's like kind of how you do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not the fact that you need to do all those things. It's about inviting the Lord into those moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of being authentic with your experience with God, right? Is that, I don't know, maybe the trap I fall into is like, I do the things for the sake of those things and not for the sake of giving it to the Lord. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But then like, we can get the question of like, what's good leisure versus bad leisure? I think that's where my mind goes. It like starts to like jump on this intellectual like loop of like, do we have to always have the Lord constantly on our mind? And like,
but that's what Bobby does, right? Like, like that's what it seems like.
Yeah.
But it's not that he like tries to do that.
Yeah.
He's just a very authentic man, and it's not like it's not like a willful recollection of like, what does the Lord want to do me all the time? It's just like that, perfectly aligning your will with the will of the Lord, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And if you start off like, I know he's a man of prayer, and like if you start off with prayer, like you set the day off like on the right tone, then things start to proceed and follow, right? So like then it becomes easier to do all things for the Lord. I think there's something to be said though, like about like do a lot of parts theory like with clients in my work through mentoring, and like parts theory talks about like why do we turn to YouTube, right? There's a part that one, like we could be just looking for authentic leisure. Sometimes that happens. maybe more
authentic leisure ends in YouTube in the first like 5 minutes,
right? Most of the times it's like trying to check out. Like there's a part that's like maybe trying to avoid something, and it's like, so the parts theory is really helpful in that. Is like there's a part that's trying to protect another part of me that doesn't want to feel, and like that part that doesn't want to feel needs to know the Lord. That's the part that needs to like encounter Christ, and I think that's where you look at Bobby, and he's not very duplicitous, right? He is who he is.
Right.
It's like a lot of his parts, so to speak, like have all encountered the Lord. And it's like, that's when it's really hard to see though, like when you're watching YouTube, to see like, oh, there's actually a part of me that's trying to run away from life right now. And that's a part that actually needs to encounter the healing love of Christ, right? Like, I think it's a story of every man to some degree. Like,
yeah, for sure.
This constant running. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight again that like that was what that's the thing about Bobby's story. What that I can take away the most is that his story so well exemplifies how each part of you needs to be redeemed, given to the Lord.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how big or intense it is, like being in prison or something, or how little it is, how like just how he was talking about the challenges of maintaining, like being present to like his kids.
Yeah.
When he's at home, like it's just a very full range of the story, which was very eye opening to me.
Yeah. Yeah, to get a quick snapshot of Bobby is good. I'm glad it like resonated with you that way. Hopefully it resonates with other people in a similar way, because it's like I'm really.
I just want to highlight. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, but
I was saying my favorite quote from the interview was when Bobby said, "Praise God, I went to jail."
Yeah. Yeah, that was like a funny. Yeah, praise God, I went to jail. I often tell him, praise God for Texas Roadhouse, because that's where he met Jared, our friend.
Yeah, but that's so true in so many levels, man. That cinnamon butter, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But it's like a testament to God's providence in a lot of ways, right? Like it's like he and like maybe that's something that speaks to me about Bobby's story more than anything else, is like all things, like the Lord is using all things, even like our mistakes, even our failures, to like bring us closer to him and his providence in some way, even Texas Roadhouse, right? Like he's using it all to help us like know him and like deepen our love for him. Yeah. So it's just amazing.
Right on. He let's talk about him in prison for a little bit, because that's obviously one of the more profound parts of his story.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like there was a part where I don't know how he did it, but Bobby kind of made me want to go to prison.
Yeah.
And he was just talking about like how it was like a time apart from the world, right?
Yeah, because he does a lot of prison ministry now, and he was like sharing that with one of the inmates that he is walking with. It's like I know this might sound weird, but like this can be a blessed time to be away from the world.
And he was making the point that like in regular everyday life, like it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
Especially with kiddos.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and I'm not saying like it's grass is always greener, right?
Sure. Flashbacks to the Office episode with Prison Mike. Was the worst part about prison?
The Dementors.
Yeah. It's like, the prison parts of us, like what like the question there to ask those, like what is it actually that you're seeking, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
that it's not prison.
No,
but it's the solitude, it's the time of reflection, it's the quiet.
Yeah, and I do you know where the word prison cell, like why it's prison cells?
Has something to do with monasteries?
Yeah, right. That's what monasteries call the rooms for the monks.
Okay.
And it's the same idea, right?
Yeah.
That it's a time apart from the world, like, and they get there's some like intense monks out there that, oh man, I was just hearing the story, I forget who it was, but he spent like 7 years in formation, then 7 years in the monastery, and then 7 years locked in his cell.
Wow.
And then like left the monastery and became like the most like evangelistic speaker of his time.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how do you connect with the world after being locked in a room for 7 years?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like that speaks to the level of solitude that we can attain. And like there's a big difference between that. I don't know if we talked about this last time or not, the difference between solitude and isolation. It's something I've been coming back to quite a bit, so like people may have heard me talk about this before, but it's like isolation is like me alone rejecting the presence of God, whereas solitude is me alone recognizing the presence of God. And that's how you can be like so connected with the world for 7 years isolated in your own like cell, because you're like connecting with the Lord and becoming more who he wants you to be, and then you go out and like oh wow, like who is this guy? Yeah
That's crazy.
Yeah, dude, it's the need for solitude, I think, is on every guy's heart. And I think that's like, it's like, I'm glad you pointed that, like that out. Like Bobby made me want to go to prison, because like it's not that you want to go to prison, it's not that I want to go to prison. Like I have a similar thought, because it's just like we all are hungry for that quietness, and it's something that we have to fight for if we actually want it in our lives, because it's not just gonna happen. Like
for sure.
Like you can't just like what you said at the beginning when we're talking about the Christmas schedule, right? If you don't like intentionally carve time out to like spend with your family over Christmas, you're just gonna spend it going to party, or like
be worried about this thing or the next.
And like you're just gonna miss it. And I think like the same, that's like a microcosm of like our life. Like like if you don't take time to actually carve out the solitude, and that's hard. Like
it's very hard to schedule just an empty block on your Google Calendar, you know?
Right.
And it's just like you see an empty block, but you know, I've been feeling this a lot lately, and it was because of starting to do a weekly holy hour.
Yeah.
Where I felt like peace for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
First time since my second child was born.
Okay. Which is like 2 years.
Yeah. Because I mean, the only other time I felt that peace was when my wife was pregnant with my second child.
Okay.
And my first child and my wife would go to bed at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And then I would have 2 hours of peace. And the first time I found that peace again was at my holy hours at the beginning of the month. But anyhow, I was relating to this like to Google Calendars. Like you fill in a calendar and you see empty space.
Yeah.
Right? And this is how I feel like my time is at home. It's that like when I have empty space, there's still like potential for it to be filled, right? Or you're like waiting for the next thing to happen.
Yeah.
And like that's like in a calendar like that. But if you actually like put in a block, like a meeting with yourself,
sure,
in that Google Calendar now, and that like that would be like the holy hour I was experienced. Now that like that's empty space, but that's empty space that's gonna stay empty.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
it's
and it's not gonna be you know your icon turned red. You like like you're busy.
Yeah.
And you're busy with being alone.
Yeah.
And like really that's how, like I said, at home has been. Like even when I'm alone or when I'm not busy, I'm just pushing for the next thing or waiting for like the next distraction to happen.
Yeah.
And it's really not.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really big illusion that I buy into. And I think a lot of guys like buy into is like just because you aren't doing anything doesn't mean you're actually like
not doing anything.
Yeah, right. Like your mind's either keep going or you're distracting yourself or everything you're alluding to. You're just waiting for life to happen.
Right. But even like your mind's going on things that, because like part of like having silence is like letting your mind go on, right? And just like dump its thoughts out.
Yeah.
But like when you're just waiting in between things, you're not actually dumping your thoughts out, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like mowing the lawn, right? You know, you need that mind dump like all the time.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why people are sadder in the winter too, because you don't get to mow the lawn.
Yeah. It's an interesting theory.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, there is something good. Like, one of the things that I've learned to try to do is like to try to be mindful like throughout the day, and so like having to not avoid like that mind dump. Mind dumping is good, like to get it all out there and to really pay attention to all the thoughts that are coming up. But it's like, how can we be like more aware of like the thoughts as they're coming to us throughout the day? Because it's so easy to kind of let them backlog. I was giving this analogy in my message I was sending to a mentee. It's like when we let it backlog, it's like we're running task manager, right? If we don't actually process like the thoughts or the feelings that we have, that like background processes list, it's like going crazy and our RAM is like destroyed.
Yeah, sure.
And so like what you're doing there is like closing out all of the tabs when you're mowing the lawn.
Right.
Because you're like getting rid of the backlog. We got to close out of the programs.
But there's some programs that are going to take like 5 seconds to shut off. You know what I mean?
Right.
For sake of the analogy, and like shutting them off is going to crash everything. So you're just like, you know what? Instead of letting these thoughts and ending these tasks, I'm just going to play Minesweeper.
Right. This is a way of avoiding it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thought experiment. I think that's probably a good place to leave things here for now with Bobby. That's me and Mitch's thoughts here on this. I welcome everyone else's thoughts in the comments. These are our thoughts on the interview, but we really want to hear what you guys think about Bobby and his story, and what's striking out to you. You know, the solitude, this wholeness, this idea of like giving ourselves at every moment were things that stood out to us. Did that stand out to you? What resonated with you? We'd love to hear from you. And if this has been, a good listen for you, please subscribe, ring that bell. I don't know. Is there anything else people should do?
I don't know. Like, comment, subscribe, share, ring the bell.
All the things.
Start donating to Patreon or something.
We don't got Patreon.
Well, not to us, but to someone.
Just somebody.
Someone needs it.
Yeah. Just the kindness of your heart. It's Christmas, right? Yeah. But we appreciate you guys watching, and we'd love to hear your feedback. And honestly, like the subscribing, either on YouTube or to whatever platform you're listening to this on, helps the algorithm pick this up and gets it in front of other Catholic guys who need to hear it. Gets Bobby's story into front of guys who need to hear it. So again, appreciate you liking this, and we'll catch you next time.